You look at it, you know what I mean? I think Calvin Prim is an all-time great, to be honest. Because he had, like you just said, he's lost his biggest fights against the top fighters. He's lost, isn't he? You know, going from Mayweather, I thought he lost the one Golovkin. You know, definitely lost one in the Golovkin.
Oh, you're serious? Like you're being for real? You say he definitely lost to Triple G. Well, no, controversial or not, he definitely beat him, right? That's what the record shows. He had 1 draw and 2 victories, right? But speaking of controversial, what about your split decision victory over an old Bernard Hopkins? But before we get there, right, I want to say this. I think that Joe Calzaghe and Saul Canelo Alvarez, aka Cinnamon, are 2 all-time greats. But if Cinnamon's not an all-time great, Calzaghe's definitely not.
Hello guys, this is Rolly Romero.
Yo, my name is Nonito Donaire. What's up guys, Designer's Eyes.
We're here with Bob Santos Boxing.
And I rock with Dr. Boxing Talk.
I want to give a quick shout out to Dr. Boxing Talk.
And I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Boxing Talk. Thank you for all the love, thank you for all the support.
You're rocking with Dr. Boxing Talk. Get your daily news from my man right here, the best in the business. Let's get it, baby.
All day, baby.
Amen.
Bam!
If I tell you I'm good, probably you'll say I'm boasting. But if I tell you I'm no good, you know one line.
Yo, what's good, Boxing Talk family? Welcome back to your favorite boxing news channel, Dr. Boxing Talk, and we have a controversial one to talk about today. You know what I'm talking about? BTF Rise Up. Check this out, man. Joe Calzaghe, who I think is an all-time great, has come out and voiced his opinion on another all-time great, Saul Canelo Alvarez, aka Cinnamon. Now I know those of you that are familiar with this channel, y'all gonna be like, oh, Doc is gonna defend Cinnamon because that's one of his favorite fighters, if not his favorite fighter. I like Cinnamon, but I'm also very objective. Don't think of me as objective when we agree, but then when you disagree, you think, oh, I lack objectivity. No, I am going to defend Cinnamon. Let's make that very clear. But it's not because I like it, it's because I pay attention to boxing, right? And hey, have your own opinion. If you don't think he's an all-time great, cool. But you must also not believe that Joe is an all-time great, because Canelo's career is undoubtedly better. You understand what I'm saying? So Joe Calzaghe has said about Saul Canelo Alvarez that he's great, but he's not an all-time great because he lost all of his big fights. And he said he lost to Mayweather. He's absolutely correct. He lost to Mayweather. He lost to Triple G. That's absolutely incorrect and erroneous, right? It's inaccurate. You may have thought he lost to Triple G, but he fought him 3 times. He had 1 draw and 2 victories, right? And then let's talk about his other 2 losses, right? Dimitri Bivol. Yeah, he lost to Bivol. That's 2 losses. Then he lost to Terrence Bud Crawford. That's 3. None of those guys are slouches. None of those guys are poo putts, right? One guy was undisputed. That would be Dimitri Bivol. Another guy was 3 times undisputed and undefeated while doing it. That'd be Terrence Bud Crawford. And the other guy was literally ranked as a #1 fighter of the past century by ESPN. That'd be Floyd Mayweather. Where's the shame in losing to those guys? And that's the problem. The problem that I have with this is not really as much as what he said. I mean, I don't like the hypocrisy there, because outside of being undefeated, there's no aspect of Calzaghe's career that's better than Canelo's. You see what I'm saying? But I don't like it because this is an all-time great in Calzaghe, right? He's holding it against Cinnamon for losing to Floyd Mayweather, Dimitri Bivol, and Terrence Crawford. For your listening pleasure, we are now on Spotify under Dr. Boxing Talk. The same thing on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, everything. Dr. Boxing Talk, man. Come rock with us. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And let's say that he hypothetically lost to Triple G. That's still a guy that we say is a Hall of Famer, right? Where's the shame in that? So do you want Canelo to take the route that you took, the very protected route, and not fight anybody? Because if he loses, then what we will say? We'll say he was sheltered. He was under PC, protective custody, right? But when a guy takes a risk and they come out on the losing end, you forget about their 60+ fights and say that they're not an all-time great because they came up on the losing end of 3 fights, and say that he lost all his biggest fights. That's not true. Miguel Cotto, that wasn't a big fight.
Yeah.
Cinnamon beat him. Shane Mosley, you're going to say he's old. I got something for that. Hold tight. But he beat him. That's not a big fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, he beat him, right? Austin No Doubt Trout, they're both undefeated up-and-comers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he beat him. Danny Jacobs, he beat him. I could keep going and going. Sergey Kovalev to become a champion at light heavyweight. That's not a big fight. He beat him. You understand what I'm saying? Caleb Plant to become the first ever undisputed in the 168-pound division in the 4-belt era, right? he beat him, an undefeated Caleb Plant.
Yeah.
You know who wasn't undisputed at 168, super middleweight? Joe Calzaghe was never undisputed. So Canelo Alvarez did it twice. You understand what I'm saying? And speaking of guys that fought everybody, you know, people wanted to fight David Benavidez, but that's about it, right? Speaking of guys who didn't fight everybody, right? How come Joe Calzaghe didn't take part in the Super 6 tournament? Not only did he not take part in the Super 6 tournament, that including guys like Jermaine Taylor, a former undisputed champion, Andre Ward, undefeated, right? A guy that we wanted to see him fight, and Carl Froch, another guy that Joe Calzaghe didn't fight. He didn't even fight the winner of the Super 6 tournament. So not only did he not partake, he also didn't fight the champion that came out of it. Why not? But you know who he did fight? He fought Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones Jr. In fact, some of his best wins are probably Bernard Hopkins, Roy Jones Jr. I would say Chris Eubank Sr., right? He fought him. And then maybe Mikhail Kessler or Jeff Lacey. In my personal opinion, I think Jeff Lacey and Mikhail Kessler are his actual two best wins, right? They just don't have the name. And maybe even Sakio Bika. Yeah, the guy that came off a Contender, and it's not Sergio Mora, right? You know, Sergio Mora did his thing, but Sakio Bika was on Contender. That's probably another one of his best wins. But his best wins from a name stake, from a name standpoint, excuse me, would be Roy Jones, Bernard Hopkins, and Chris Eubank Sr. And you know what they all have in common? Chris Eubank was at the end of his career when Joe Calzaghe fought him and beat him. In fact, he fought 2 more times and he lost. He was on a 3-loss losing streak, a 3-fight losing streak, and then he retired. So it was at the end of Chris Eubank Sr.'s career. And then he fought Roy Jones, who was 39 years old. The man was born in 1969.
Damn. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so when he fought Roy Jones Jr., the guy was 39, almost 40.
Damn.
Yeah, and then the other guy he fought was Bernard Hopkins, who was born in 1965.
Damn. I'm sorry.
So when they fought in 2008, you know, he fought Roy Jones in 2008 as well, and he also fought Bernard Hopkins in the same year, 2008. Let's do the math. From 1965 to 2008 would be how old? It'll be 43 years old.
Damn.
That's how old Bernard Hopkins was when Joe Calzaghe beat him. So when you want to say that Triple G was old, we say, oh, Triple G was old because he was 39, almost 40. Yeah, he was the same age as Roy Jones when Calzaghe fought him. And I want to be very clear too. Triple G, the trilogy, took 5 years to take place. So while Triple G was 39, almost 40, or 40 years old, for the last fight in 2022, he wasn't 40 years old in the first fight or the second fight. He was about 35, right? Much younger than Roy Jones and B-Hop. In fact, B-Hop was 43 years old when Joe Calzaghe fought him. Triple G is 43 years old today. Yeah, so when Calzaghe fought B-Hop, that'll be akin and synonymous if Canelo fought Triple G today at 43 years old. So don't give me this nonsense about, oh, Triple G was old when he fought Canelo. Okay, well, Joe Calzaghe's best wins on paper by name were all old. Chris Eubank, Roy Jones, and the 43-year-old B-Hop.
Damn.
So I'm just saying, how about that for a little bit of awareness? If you want to tell me that his best wins is Mikhail Kessler or Jeff Left Hook Lacey, I said that Joe Calzaghe is an all-time great. But you cannot tell me that you're going to give Calzaghe credit for beating Mikhail Kessler and what's his name? Mikhail Kessler or Jeff Left Hook Lacey, but then you're not going to give Canelo credit for beating Caleb Plant or Billy Joe Saunders or Miguel Cotto or Ricochet Mosley or whoever else I name that you want to name too, or even the William Skoll to reclaim undisputed. You see what I'm saying? So when you want to talk about a guy not being an all-time great and you think that you're an all-time great and Canelo has what, 60 something. When's the last time a great fighter has had 60 plus fights? It was probably Vladimir Klitschko, right? So Cinnamon is definitely an all-time great. He's going to go down as an all-time great, regardless of losing 3 times. And Joe Calzaghe, he's never fought anybody close to the greatness that Saul Canelo Alvarez has shared the ring with. And that's just a fact. So when Joe Calzaghe says that Canelo's not an all-time great because he lost all of his big fights, he lost 3 of his big fights. But then that means that Calzaghe, I could argue you didn't even have any big fights. Because the 2 big fights that you had, Roy Jones and B-Hop, they were old. The same age as Triple G was in the third fight that Canelo had with him, as for Roy Jones, because Roy Jones was 39 or 40, just like Triple G was 39 or 40. B-Hop was older. He was 43 years old. Damn. And B-Hop and Roy Jones still managed to drop Calzaghe. So I could argue that if Canelo and Calzaghe fought, Canelo would probably put Calzaghe to sleep. I know Andre Ward would have beat him. And if he would have fought a younger, like everybody wants Canelo to fight a younger Triple G, if Calzaghe would have fought a younger Roy Jones and a younger B-Hop, they probably would have put him to sleep too. Let's just be real about it. And if you also want to be honest again, if Calzaghe fought Triple G, he probably would have went to sleep too. So, you know what I'm saying? Hey, we want to argue if Canelo beat him or not. Canelo beat him, bro. And then B-Hop, like I said, you had a split decision victory. Calzaghe had a split decision victory over B-Hop. So if you want to talk about controversial, your victory over B-Hop was more controversial than any of Canelo's fights with Triple G. Even the draw included, you know what I'm saying? If you want to say the draw, whatever. But, I just think that people lack self-awareness, and you got to just be honest, man. Joe Calzaghe, once again, people won't hear me say this, and that's okay. I don't care. But he's all-time great, but he's not greater than Canelo. And that's just a fact. It is what it is, man. Canelo is, hey, don't get it twisted because the man lost to Floyd Mayweather, Bivol, and Terrence Crawford. There's no shame in that. You see what I'm saying? To me, there's more shame in not coming out of your home country unless you're going to fight two guys that are on the severe decline because they're way outside of their prime. You see what I'm saying? B-Hop did go on to get some more victories, but B-Hop is an all-time great himself. So, of course, B-Hop on the decline is still going to be good enough to beat some people, but he wasn't getting better and he wasn't in his prime and he wasn't at his best. Don't get that twisted. Those are two different things. You see what I'm saying? So Calzaghe, I just don't really want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? They're both all-time greats, but Canelo is greater than Joe Calzaghe. That just is what it is. And I'm going to be honest too. A lot of people talk trash about Floyd Mayweather being undefeated and say he didn't fight everybody. Joe Calzaghe, you could argue, didn't fight anybody. The only reason why, well, I'm not gonna say the only reason because that's disrespectful. I'm not trying to be disrespectful because, like I said, he's an all-time great. But the part that stands out about Joe Calzaghe is the fact that he is undefeated, 46-0. It's not because of who he beat, because the guys that he beat that we know, Eubank, end of his career, Roy Jones, 40 years old, B-Hop, 43 years old. So I don't want to hear it, man. Shout out to Canelo. Shame on everybody who's knocking Canelo for losing his quote-unquote big fights, and there are only 3 of them. It is what it is, man. He lost to greats. He lost to a guy in Floyd Mayweather who's literally considered the #1 fighter in the last century by ESPN. Not me. That's ESPN. He lost to another guy who, besides Clarissa Shields, is the first person in boxing history to be a 3 times undisputed champion. On the male side, he's the first. That's Terrence Bud Crawford. You see what I'm saying? And then he lost to Dimitri Bivol, who we argue is one of the best light heavyweights today, and he was also undisputed at light heavyweight. Undisputed, something that Joe Calzaghe never done. He never did that. And you don't have to be undisputed to be great. I mean, Floyd wasn't undisputed, but Floyd beat so many champions. Manny Pacquiao was undisputed, but he went through so many divisions, and they both fought so many Hall of Famers. Joe Calzaghe fought 3, and all of them were at the same end of their career. Eubank, Roy Jones, and B-Hop. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that, man. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what it is because I am a boxing historian. I'm a true pugilist enthusiast, and I pay attention to things, man. I'm going to call out the contradiction. Cinnamon may not be an all-time great in your opinion, but you cannot also have the same... you could also not have an opinion come from the same person that Canelo's not an all-time great, but Joe Calzaghe is, because there's no doubt that Canelo had a better career, and that's just what it is, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. Don't forget to smack that like button, but most importantly, remember, with God, we can do anything. Without God, we're nothing. The doctor's out. Peace. From the hood to college, both worlds they had to meet. 6 degrees between us, so cold we're about to freeze. But we're Florida boys, hot takes, we bring the heat. We're moving the culture, the engineers to the streets.